I was 15 the first time I intentionally cut myself. I can still recall quite vividly. I remember taking the sharpest knife from my mother's kitchen drawer and washing it methodically to make sure it was clean. Afterwards, I took the knife up to my room. I closed the door behind me and leaned my back against it. You see, we didn't have any locks on the doors, and by leaning against it, I wanted to make sure that no one would accidentally walk in on me. I put the tip of the knife on my arm, just beneath my elbow, and pushed down while slicing. And I remember feeling fascinated by the way the cut filled with blood before it overflowed and a little drop formed sliding into the crook of my elbow. I mean, I obviously knew what would happen cutting into my own skin. What I didn't know was how good it would feel. You see, when your body experiences pain, it starts to create a hormonal response by releasing endorphins. And for me, cutting myself created a toxic cocktail between these endorphins and control, and much like a temporary high, and self-harm was my drug. So in those moments, I could just feel my chest untighten and my shoulders relax. And for those among you here today who are not cutters, which I hope is every one of you, it is like the equivalent of sliding into a warm bath after a long, long day. I mean, you're stressed, you're tired, and you just need a moment to exhale. But as every addict knows, a high is always followed by a crash. So my warm bath turned to ice as reality started to kick in. Looking down at the cuts on my arms and legs, the blood spread across my skin, I panicked. What if someone should notice? It took me years to seek out professional help and even longer to shake my addiction to self-harm. And throughout this process, I experienced some very expected emotions like rage, despair, self-loathing, and some unexpected emotions like surprise and grief. But I must say that the one emotion that stuck with me and quite frankly saved me was shame. You see, as far back as I can remember, shame had always been my trusted companion. Of course, sometimes it was accompanied by joy or relaxation or anxiety, but shame was pretty much always there. And for me, feeling ashamed was just like having blonde hair or rather large feet, which luckily you cannot see right now. So during my childhood, this shame manifested itself in avoiding behavior, in being a shy kid with my peers, but not with adults, in being totally in love with my Saturday leisure activities, but pretending to be sick every Saturday morning so I wouldn't have to go. I mean, it's not really abnormal things, and it's definitely not something you cannot grow out of. I, however, did not grow out of it. Sure, I did start enjoying the company of kids my own age, I made some friends, and did pretty well in school. But while I took steps towards the world, my companion shame took steps towards me, telling me I wasn't nice enough, so I tried to make more friends. It told me I wasn't smart enough, so I worked harder. It told me I wasn't good enough, so I tried to be better. It told me I wasn't brave enough, so I tried to be braver. I was unhappy, so I tried to be happier. But I was especially ashamed of being so unhappy because I was growing up in a very happy environment. And you see, 43% of adults in the Netherlands state to struggle with mental health issues at some point in their life. I mean, think about this, 43%. That would mean, I scoped out the room a little bit earlier, that approximately this proportion of you, all here, this proportion of you has struggled. Yes, you now all belong to those crazy people. But no worries, I'm also joining your team, so we're here together. And 1 in 4 adults in the Netherlands are currently struggling with a disorder on a yearly or daily basis. So I want you to look to the people on your left and your right. Out of the 4 of you, 1 is currently struggling. In your close environment, your friends, family, colleagues, would you know? Well, my futile efforts in just becoming happier led me to develop a new motto. If you ignore it, it does not exist. And I think this motto is a reflection of society's way of handling mental health issues. And that is why we need to change the way we talk about mental health. Because if you ignore it, it does not exist, right? I mean, everyone knows this attitude does not work. It took me years to find out. But, I mean, if you ignore a broken leg, it does not make it go away. Then why aren't we talking about mental health? I think this is because mental health itself suffers from a suffocating stigma. I mean, dealing with issues like depression or anxiety are still regarded as a reflection of a weak personality and a weak person. And these sentiments make it increasingly hard for people to speak up, only further enlarging feelings of loneliness and isolation. So, I told you earlier that shame saved me. But if shame creates such a suffocating environment, how can it possibly have saved me? Well, this connects exactly to this sentiment of weakness. Because if you think about it, what is shame? During my on-again, off-again relationship with therapy, psychiatrists, psychologists, I slowly started to realize something. I started to realize that all that shame I felt wasn't even my own. And ironically, I did not realize this in therapy. I learned through the experience of opening up to my friends and family and loved ones that not all of them thought I was crazy, and at least not because of what I just told them. But it was my initial shame that had triggered me into hurting myself. It was the additional shame of having mental health issues that only worsened this situation, creating a vicious cycle of self-harm and shame. And it was therapy and the warmth of my loved ones that really helped me to realize that shame was just a companion. It's not the essence of who I am. It was not me. So as I plowed through my own mind and emotions and started to realize that all this shame I'd been feeling, that had been holding me back, wasn't even my own, I also realized that I was stigmatizing myself. It's something a lot of mental health patients suffer from. And self-stigma basically means that you are repeating internally all this prejudice and stereotyping that society teaches you. Depression is a sign of weakness. Cutters are attention whores. Basically, that I was crazy and that was my own fault. But in realizing that the essence of who I am has nothing to do with who society thinks I am, I experienced something I never thought was possible. I stopped feeling ashamed. Because there is no shame in not feeling well. There is no shame in admitting you are not feeling well. And there is definitely no shame in seeking help when you need it. In my book, that makes you brave, not crazy. So, in this realization that I had nothing to be ashamed of, that I was not a lost cause, I regained hope and started my path towards healing. Refusing to let myself be stigmatized or branded as crazy transformed my shame into a powerful source of energy and inspiration for change. My shame became my own gain. And this energy I now get to use to advocate for mental health improvements in the system, for reaching out and educating people about these issues. But obviously, such an epiphany does not happen overnight. And for that, I can only thank my parents, loved ones, family, friends, who have been so patient with me, and especially loved me when I did not let them. And of course, I also need to thank my therapists who have helped me and are still helping me to become the person that everyone but me already knew I could be. So I want all of you to take a moment and reflect on yourself, ask yourself, what am I ashamed of? And why am I ashamed? Because in the LGBT community, we have this saying, it gets better. And I don't necessarily believe in that, because it does not automatically get better, but you get better. So be bold and be brave. Talk about mental health issues and refuse to let yourself be shamed or stigmatized into hiding. Because I am proud to be able to tell my story, and you all should be proud to tell yours. Thank you.